Hey America, I'm just going to start from the beginning rather than fill you in. I don't like when I am filled in on things, so I'd rather just start from the beginning. Chapter 1. When I woke the morning after Ross moved out, the house was silent. No sounds of our kids getting ready for school and racing up the stairs. No sounds of Ross banging pots and pans around the kitchen, and no whir of the coffee grinder before he brewed me a pot. My skull was throbbing and my tweed skirt was cutting into my stomach. 2 bottles of wine into the night before, I'd forgotten to draw the crimson drapes or change out of my work clothes. My laptop rested next to me on the bed, still open to a website about Malagasy rumors. From the bed, I could see the sunlit green hills of Oakland, irregularly studded with sprawling houses and eucalyptus trees and wood sorrel. It was the same panoramic view to which I always awoke, the same splendor, but I was alone, again. As a child, I decided I would never let myself feel as lost as I felt after my mother killed herself, leaving me with a workaholic father and a younger sister to raise. And yet here I was again, waking up alone in a large, too quiet house. Eager to throw myself into trial prep for an all-consuming copyright lawsuit, Turner versus Pistachio, I showered and slipped into other clothes. I blow-dried and flat-ironed my unruly black curls. When I padded down the hall to the kitchen, I noticed that the painting my younger sister Julie had made for Ross was missing. No huge loss as far as I was concerned. It had been one of her weirder, more colorful canvases from a controversial graduate school exhibit entitled The Existential Crisis of Brown Folk that had left me speechless and mildly irritated. But now there was a darker colored square where the painting had hung, where sunlight hadn't bleached the walls, a square that reminded me of a day more than 10 years ago when the house painters had left and our young, excited family moved into our new home. In the kitchen, I started the coffee maker. Roasted coffee was slowly dripping into my ceramic cup when the phone began beeping and vibrating. I glanced at the text. It was from Nick Evers, my lover and a named partner at the firm where I worked. We need to talk. My palms started sweating with anticipation. I texted back, what's going on? The last thing I wanted to do was to talk, excavate what we meant to each other. Evers knew Ross had left. Was he wanting to discuss moving forward? Part of me thought, yes, he wants to move forward. I should move forward. This is new. This is someone who doesn't know how hard intimacy is for me, a chance for a fresh start. But the other part, the deeper part, suspected my kids blamed me for blowing up our lives together. And knowing they could be right, I wanted to burrow under the covers of my bed in shame. It was dangerous to speak out loud about this, about how I felt or how they felt. I was numb to being left, and I wanted to keep my emotions underground. I wanted to avoid shining any sort of conversational spotlight on the subterranean things I knew were messy and irrational and overwhelming. Instead, I told myself, nobody meets the right person at age 19, and at least you'll still have the comfort and thrill of work, and with Spencer's support, the possibility of the biggest win of your career so far. It was a minute before Evers replied to my text. I stared at the phone, willing it to beep again. I had already poured a cup of coffee by the time it signaled a new text. I'll tell you when you come over. I took a swig of searing hot coffee, scalding my tongue, and waited another beat in order to seem as mysterious and aloof as him. I texted back, after work. The phone beeped. We should talk now. Mechanically, I laid out bowls for Tara and Mike and Ross. I was pouring my cereal when I realized from the start it was just one for breakfast. One is the loneliest and all that. I stared into my empty bowl, its pale porcelain surface reflecting my face, and with no footwork to focus me, the rage I'd been trying to suppress, at myself, at Ross, at how little I'd been able to accomplish in my life so far, flashed through me. I shoved the bowl off the table. It cracked on the floor. There was nobody for whom I was performing, so I left the pieces and the cereal where they'd fallen to be swept up later. I grabbed a protein bar and my briefcase and headed to the office. But in my rush to escape the gloomy, hollow silence of the home that had once meant so much, I forgot to text Evers back. Spencer wants to see you right away, our brunette receptionist said as I strolled into the lobby. Usually I started working immediately and met Spencer for lunch or an evening drink to talk strategy. Wondering what he could possibly want to discuss first thing in the morning, I hurried down the hall. Inside one of the offices, I overheard 2 junior associates speaking in hushed tones. The quietness of their voices, their small, speculative cadences caught my attention, and I paused to listen before passing the open door. Shocking that Evers got fired. Can they do that to a partner? It depends on what their agreement says. I continued toward Spencer's spacious corner office at a slower clip. I should have called others back. I turned right into Spencer's office. A short, broad-shouldered man in a crisp white dress shirt and pressed slacks. He was gazing out of the enormous plate glass window that faced west onto the brick beacon of the Tribune Tower with its triangular cap, the pale mint green of an oxidized penny. Sunlight glinted off the gold type on the dark red leather of the code books and the glass faces of framed lithographs of California farm workers and antique local maps that adorned the walls. On the front lip of his desk were hockey and football memorabilia and trinkets from grateful clients. One row behind these knickknacks sat his photograph of Spencer on the ice in his skates, with an arm casually slung over the governor's shoulder. Both wore protective hockey gear. They were an alliance of two of the most powerful men in California, still in some ways a wild west of reinvention, the last frontier of genius hucksters and lone gunslingers. Pride swelled in me. I belonged to a premier firm run by someone powerful. This was a place where anyone could be the star she was meant to be, even if she didn't fit the script of what power looked like. Before I could say anything, Spencer spun around and started speaking. Maya, 8 years ago, your father convinced me to bring you on board, to give you a chance. You know how much I respect your father's judgment. He's a hell of a lawyer. I thought, no problem. You'd last a year, then scurry out of this business as fast as you could, the way most of our associates do. But instead, you proved yourself. He sat down and smoothed back his silvery hair. Thank you. Spencer crossed his arms and breathed deeply, as if he were holding back a violent barrage of words. His gentleness and restraint were entirely uncharacteristic and unsettled me. This type of care from him was far worse than a slap. Let me finish. To no one's surprise, you've proven yourself a hard worker, one of our hardest workers. I was ready to recommend to the other partners we promote you after this case. I was ready. He had seen me as heir to his legacy, but why the past tense? Thank you. You've been more of a father to me than my own father has. I appreciate the confidence you've had in me, and I know I would never have come so far without your mentorship. Perhaps I hadn't been effusive enough about how grateful I was. Perhaps I hadn't suggested what was true, that the work I did at his firm was necessary, that it was saving me, that it gave me a place to belong. Did he need to hear that? Before your ethics were called into question, I thought this trial would be your last step towards making a partner. He rubbed his temples. Ethics. A chill passed through me. They had never worried me because I saw Spencer had no qualms about them. He was sure of himself, and I had trained myself to appear as tough as he was. But I knew I committed any number of very minor ethical violations. So many morally ambiguous courses of conduct shading over into just plain wrong. All violations I could argue my way out of course, that I couldn't really narrow down possibilities enough to issue a plausible denial. The room darkened. It was only the sun slipping behind a cloud, but my vocabulary contracted as the light pulled away. I could tell from Spencer's gentle demeanor he was talking about something corrosive. The affair? Must be. He didn't even think I was worth the harsh criticism. He didn't even see me as his equal. In all the time I'd spent being mentored by him, I never realized he saw me as less than him. He looked out the window, and in profile, all the fleshy grooves on his weathered cheeks looked more pronounced than usual. I'm going to be blunt. Give it to me, I can take it. You don't have it. What? The right temperament for this kind of work. As a trial lawyer, you need to be capable of navigating all sorts of slippery situations. You've been with us for years, but you're still not tough enough, not ethical enough in the face of adversity. Tough. I was perhaps the only thing I was. Who was I if I wasn't tough? I didn't believe him. There had to be something specific I'd done. There's no rule of professional conduct about affairs, I said. It was the wrong thing to say. Spencer pounded the blotter on his desk, and the 6 silver balls of his perpetual motion machine started swaying, forcefully knocking against each other. You shouldn't have gotten involved with him. You're married. We split up. He raised his eyebrows, so I added, the other night. Adultery could have kept you from being admitted to the bar, he said sternly. Evers hasn't shown good judgment either. Is that why he was fired? Spencer poured himself a double malt scotch from a crystal decanter on the sideboard. In all my time at the firm, I'd assumed this setup was a bit of an affectation, but completely ignoring the morning hour, he took a long drink, nearly emptying the glass. He shook his head again, apparently to convey that what Evers and I had done was so wholly repugnant, so revolting, he could not sully his lips by speaking of it. He fixed his stare on me. I blushed and crossed my legs. I wondered if he wanted me to reveal more of myself, if that would buy me his sympathy. But I didn't want to call attention to any of my mistakes or how ashamed I was about Ross leaving me, So I said in desperation, "There's no ethical question here. Ross and I are separated. I just want to do my work. You know it's the only thing I care about, the only thing I'm any good at." I thought he'd understand because he worked so hard too, and his family probably wasn't any happier about the long hours than my family was. A family man with 2 children and 4 grandchildren, he called his wife of 35 years an angel for putting up with him. But underneath that courteous facade, he truly believed he was pushing the giant rock of civilization up a hill all by himself. That it didn't matter that he had someone else, an ash-blonde wife, and expensive yoga wear, to run his laundry, clean the house, pay the bills, make investments, ensure his socks were matching on court days, entertain new clients and associates at dinner parties, and revolve her world around his. You know very well that what I'm talking about goes back months, long before this thing with Evers, long before you were separated. Maybe it's my fault. I threw you into a high-profile case before you were ready. He rose and began pacing by the window. I tried to figure out what I'd done wrong before I slept with Evers as dust motes swirled around the stark light around Spencer. Because your sister's such a successful artist, we figured you'd have more insight into the Turner case than our other associates would, but clearly we were wrong. Rage, a burning hot red rage, rescued me in that moment. Just as humiliation threatened to engulf me, he compared me to my successful younger sister, as if I hadn't dealt with that comparison my whole life. How much shit could go down the drain at once? It couldn't all fit. Surely I was more valuable than any mistakes I'd made. In 8 years, I never questioned Spencer. He was the one person I counted on to help build me into the star I wanted to be since childhood. But as I listened to him attack me for reasons that seemed mostly unfair, something became clear. Spencer was just another person, just another fallible human being, letting me down. Why had he thrown me into this lawsuit? I never planned to become an art lawyer. I was fast on my way to becoming an expert in fraud. Who can spot a con better than a con? But Spencer had thrown me under the bus with Evers' client, Brian Turner, a celebrity artist who felt absolutely entitled to a multi-million-dollar verdict. Maybe I should have stroked Brian's ego even more, but I already needed to prove on a daily basis that I deserved to be there in spite of being a lazy woman. What do you think I should have done? You should have asked for help. You should have interrupted me and said, "Hey Spencer, things are falling apart with Evers and the case." His stentorian voice was unyielding as a whip as he continued to discuss hypothetical ways in which I could have handled the situation better. But both of us knew that none of his suggestions would have resulted in a better outcome. His senior associates were supposed to be able to figure out problems on their own. If we couldn't power through, we would be branded as weak, and if we were lucky, kept on as career associates until we were shriveled, desiccated husks of our former selves. Perhaps, knowing I had done something wrong, even if the wrongs were small, I should have prostrated myself. But revealing that shame was my default position would have humiliated me even more than Spencer knowing of my transgressions in the first place. "Where is this going?" I asked, feeling increasingly like prey. My fingertips were electric and I wanted to run, but I kept myself planted in my seat. Sit still, conceal your emotions. I started to perspire. Something dark was upon me. Through the plate glass window, seagulls were circling the sky like toy birds on a baby's mobile. A siren howled as the fire truck rattled by and turned the corner. I tried to think of a way to fix whatever had broken in my relationship with Spencer.